He does. He does. Well, would you do it? Well, would you do it? Would you do it? Well, would you do it? Well, would you do it? Well, I mean, we haven't talked about that yet. Well, I mean, would you? We haven't talked. Well, I mean, we haven't talked about that yet. Well, I mean, we haven't talked about that yet. Well, I think he's a catch. 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 Flan, Flan. Well, I think he's a catch. That's him. Hi, Ignacio, Felda. Hi, Ignacio. Hey, hi, Ignacio, Hilda. Hi, Betty. Hey, here. It's a return. It's a return. The mute doesn't work, but it sounds awesome. But it sounds awesome. It's a return. The mute doesn't work. It's a return. The mute doesn't work, but it sounds awesome. It's a return. It's a return. The mute doesn't work, but it sounds awesome. It's a return. The mute sound. It's a return. The mute. It's a return. The mute doesn't work, but it sounds awesome. It's a return. The mute doesn't. It's a return. The mute doesn't work. It's a return. The mute doesn't work, but it sounds awesome. It's a return. The mute doesn't work. It's a return. The mute doesn't work, but it sounds awesome. It's a return, but it's a return. The mute doesn't work, but it sounds awesome. It's a return. The mute doesn't work, but it sounds awesome. It's a return, but it. Thank you. He does. Well, would you do it? I mean, you haven't talked about it yet. Well, I think he's a catch. Len, that's him. Hi, Ignacio. Filda. Hi, Betty. Hey, here. It's a return. It's a return. It's a return. The mute. It's a return. The mute doesn't work, but it sounds awesome. He does. Well, would you do it? Well, we haven't talked about that yet. Well, I think he's a catch. Flan, that's him. Hi, Ignacio. Filda. Hi, Daddy. Hey, here. It's a return. The mute doesn't work, but it doesn't work. Awesome. He does? Well, we haven't talked about it yet. I think he's a catch. Flan, that's him. Hi, Ignacio. Hilda. Hi, Daddy. Hey, here. It's a return. The mute doesn't work, but it sounds awesome. But would you do it? We haven't talked about it yet. Well, I think he's a catch. Flan, that's him. Hi, Ignacio, Hilda. Hi, Daddy. Hi, Betty. Here. It's a return. The mute doesn't work, but it sounds awesome. He does? Well, would you do it? Well, we haven't talked about it yet. I think he's a catch. Flan, that's him. Hi, Ignacio, Hilda. Hi, Daddy. Hey, here. It's a return. The mute doesn't work, but it sounds awesome. He does? Well, would you do it? Well, we haven't talked about it yet. Well, I think he's a catch. Flan, that's him. Hi, Ignacio, Hilda. Hi, Daddy. Hey, here. It's a return. The mute doesn't work, but it sounds awesome. He does? Well, would you do it? Well, we haven't talked about it yet. Well, I think he's a cat. Glenn? That's him. Hi, that's here. Hilda. Hi, Daddy. Here. The return. The mute doesn't work, but it sounds awesome. Thank you. uh, can he talk? Sure. Oh, I'm on outside. Celebrity studied. Celebrity studied funeral service. What have to? What have today? Celebrity funeral service. What have today? For Faye Summers. For Faye Summers. Celebrity studied funeral services were held today for Faye Summers. Celebrity studied celebrity studied celebrity studied celebrity celebrity studied funeral service celebrity studied funeral services were held today for Faye Summers. Celebrity 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 studied funeral services were held today for Faye Summers. Celebrity studied funeral services were held today for Faye Summers. Celebrity studied funeral services were held today for Faye Summers. The much loved and hated editor-in-chief, the much loved and hated editor-in-chief, the much and hated, the much loved and hated, the much loved hate, the much loved and hated in, the much loved and hated it in, the much loved and hated, the, the much loved and hated editor-in-chief editor-in-chief, the much loved and hated leader-in-chief, the much loved and hated, the much loved and hated editor-in-chief, the much loved and hated, the much loved the much loved and hated editor-in-chief, the much the, the much loved and hated editor-in-chief, the much the much loved and hated editor-in-chief. A fashion Bible in a fashion Bible mode magazine, 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 fashion Bible, a fashion Bible mode magazine, a fashion Bible mode magazine. Thank you. Betty, can you talk? Yes, sure. Oh, outside, yeah, okay. Celebrity study funeral services were held today. Oh, yeah. Celebrity study funeral services were held today for Faye Summers, the much loved and hated editor-in-chief of Fashion Bible Mode magazine. A Fashion Bible Mode magazine. A Fashion Bible Mode magazine. Celebrity studied funeral service were held today for Faye Summers, the much loved and hated editor-in-chief of Fashion Bible Mode magazine. Celebrity studied funeral services were held today for Faye Summers, the much loved and hated editor-in-chief of Fashion Bible Mode magazine. It was the beach slot world around. It was beach slot heard surround. It was the beach slot heard around the world and long-time moderative administrator. A Fashion Bible Mode magazine. It was the beach slot heard around the world. Heard around the world. It was the beach slap. It was the beach slap heard. It was the beach slap heard around the world. It was the beach slap heard around the world. It was the beach slap heard around the world. It was the beach slap heard around the world. It was the beach slap heard around. It was the beach slap heard around the world. It was the beach slap heard around the world. It was the beach slap hard around the world. It was the beach hard around the world. It was the beach slap hard around the world. It was the beach. It was the beach slap hard around the world. It was the beach slap hard around the world. It was the beach slap hard around the world. It was the beach slap hard. Thank you. Betty, can you talk? Yes, sure. Sure. Oh, I'm outside. Okay. Celebrities started funeral services for her today for Faye Summers, the much loved and hated Adrian Schiff and Fashion Bibles mod magazines. It was the beach slap in the. It was the beach slap heard around the world, and when long time mod creative when long time mod creative director Eliminator. When long time mod creative director Eliminator. Eliminator. Slater. When long time mod creative director Eliminator. When long time mod creative. When long time mod creative director Eliminator. When long time mod creative director Eliminator. When long time mod creative director Eliminator. One long-time mod creative director William Stater. One long-time mod creative director William Stater. Most past of the passport in favor Daniel Mead. They normally was passed over for the top spot in favor Daniel Mead. Normally. 졸려.